My name is Dr. Kevin Pecca. I wanted to make a podcast that exposes people to the true miracles of life and health. All the guests on this show have been specially picked because they bring something positive to the world. They have some of the most amazing and inspiring life stories. These people have a passion for living, healing, and leaving the world better than they found it. There is something inside these people that made them keep fighting through all the tough times, even when people told them it was not possible. They carried on and made their lives beautiful again. And now they are sharing their experiences with the world. This is the Expect Miracles podcast. Enjoy the show. Dr. Austin Quon is a doctor of chiropractic out of DeMoss Chiropractic in Newport Beach, California. Today we will be talking about CBD. CBD is a cannabis compound that has significant miracle benefits. It is the non-psychoactive component of cannabis, which means it does not get you high. It has been found to help many people with seizures, anxiety, depression, anti-inflammatory issues, and much more. Today on the podcast, Dr. Austin shares the research and talks about how CBD is helping thousands of people worldwide. Please welcome Dr. Austin Quon.
All right. Austin, where are you from?
Kevin, I'm from Orange County, California. Beautiful Costa Mesa, right outside Newport Beach. Been born and raised here my whole life, and luckily I've been blessed to get to practice here. And it's sunny, 85 degrees out here today.
It is sunny every single day. It doesn't get any better than Newport. So, Austin, what got you into chiropractic?
So I got into chiropractic on a limb, actually. I spent my entire career before I got into chiropractic as a strength conditioning trainer. I went to school as a kinesiologist. I knew I wanted to do something related to the human body. Real passionate about kind of how we could really unlock this beautiful being that God created and how we can maximize movement potential, strength potential, peak performance in our athletes. That's something that always kind of intrigued my interest. I was a basketball player growing up, so I got to really get hands-on with strength conditioning and working out and exercising. So I followed that passion at Westmont. We studied there and finished my kinesiology degree there. Kind of got into kind of a physical therapy spectrum, and I was looking into physical therapy, and I really truthfully had no idea what chiropractic was, man.
Yeah.
Kind of on a limb, I went and hung out with my buddy Garrison. He was my roommate in undergraduate, so I really trusted a lot of the stuff that he's doing. And, he told me about chiropractic and how it works, just the real basic spiel that we give everybody, about
definitely,
the nervous system, the spine, and how important the brain-body connection is. And I was sold. I didn't have to, there was no real buying or selling. I just had to know that this is like exactly what I need to do. I found a calling like basically immediately in chiropractic and how I could use my hands and truly use the two little resources God gave me to touch the world. To give to people.
And you were on a little bit of an accelerated program in college, right? Didn't you finish college for 2 years or something?
I did the 2.5-year track over at Westmont.
That's very impressive,
I invented that one.
Yeah, cool, yeah, seriously. Very impressive. Even at chiropractic school, it's very impressive how you were able just to comprehend all that information at once. You're a brilliant guy.
That's the thing, dude, though, was when you really are passionate about a topic and you can really research it. It's not work to study for things. Right. It's like, oh, man, I have to study the human body.
Yeah.
It's, oh, man, I have to study neuroscience tonight. It becomes this thing that you fall in love with. And honestly, I learn more and more about chiropractic every day. We learn more about, different subjects of science every day. So it's always a growing field. It's something that I'm really excited to get to learn continuously from guys like you, from my mentors and people that I'm colleagues with, and just sharing experiences in practice and things. It's awesome. So we're having so much fun, dude.
So Austin, out in the Golden State out there, you have a beautiful product called CBD.
We do, brother. We do. It's not legal in all 50 states yet, apparently.
And that's crazy to me. Because there's miracles happening all over the world with this.
Miracles have happened, and it's not just here in the States. Like you said, it's all over the world. But people need to realize that there's been this really terrible stigma against marijuana. And frankly, we can talk about today a little bit, but marijuana is a term that the DEA created and put into the American conscience in 1937 when they passed this Marijuana Tax Act that effectively deforested hemp worldwide. There's this propaganda that got created against marijuana. We had medical doctors in America who had been using cannabis for years and years and years as a medicinal supplement. They've used different tinctures, different remedies. They've used the leaves. They've used the actual buds. There's all kinds of different parts of the plant that we've used as medicine. And a lot of people don't know that George Washington talks about how you could pay your taxes in hemp. Like we needed hemp back then
that's awesome.
To run the business that was going on back then. So
do you know what happened like with the whole, as far as like why they shut it down?
Yeah, there's a big thing about textiles, right? So example, William Randolph Hearst and some of the guys that were in the textile industries, they were in for paper, right? So the bioavailability and the things that we can do with hemp, not only in the body as medicine, but as biofuel potentially, as a textile, as wood products, as paper. A lot of people don't know Henry Ford, the guy that made the first Model T, he made a version of the Model T entirely out of hemp. It was powered on hemp biofuel, and it was made out of hemp, like plastic. So this technology has been around for a really long time, and these innovative ideas using hemp for different products and using hemp for different things, it's been going on since forever. It's been going on since the beginning of time. Dr. Bill and I talk about it at our CBD workshop. There's like these cool little hieroglyphics that sometimes we see that, the raven palm trees and things. And, truthfully, there's all kinds of history about people using different hemp supplements and different types of herbal remedies throughout history. So it makes perfect sense to me why a plant that has such healing capabilities, potentially, we talk about a lot of the research today is talking about there's anti-epileptic capabilities, anti-tumoral, anti-fungal, anti-this, anti-that. If eventually it becomes this anti-everything, the pharmaceutical company has a drug for every single one of those symptoms. So when we're challenging a $1 trillion industry potentially with one single plant that's very renewable, it grows like a weed across the world. It can basically grow in any condition, anywhere. Serious issue for our pharmaceutical industry as a multi-billion-dollar industry.
Absolutely.
What we're seeing nowadays is that, especially in areas of California, Colorado, some of these states that have started to legalize cannabis, we're seeing that there is a strong revolution. There's a strong movement towards using these plants as natural remedies for, we talk about anti-everything, basically.
Anti-inflammatory, It clearly has a central effect on the nervous system. So the fact that you guys can use chiropractic and that together, the results out there you guys must be getting, it's got to be absolutely phenomenal.
It's a beautiful thing because the CBD hemp goes perfectly in line with everything that we believe as chiropractors. So the essence of chiropractic is that we're allowing the body, we're allowing the brain to communicate freely with every cell. Everything in the nervous system has to communicate and integrate properly. The CBD, what we're finding is that there's cannabinoid receptors on every single cell in the body. So every cell has a little receptor for cannabinoids. And we're learning more and more about these receptors every day. There's different receptors for different cannabinoids. And the research is constantly being done and constantly changing. But what we do know is that every cell has these receptors. Your body was innately created to receive cannabinoids.
Before we go any further, I want to make this clear for all the listeners out here. CBD, it's non-psychoactive. It doesn't get you high, right?
Exactly. It doesn't get you high. And let's talk about that for a second because that's a great point for some of the listeners.
And what does CBD stand for?
CBD stands for cannabidiol. It's the main non-psychoactive cannabinoid in the hemp plant. So within the cannabis plant, on the buds, there are multiple different types of cannabinoids. There is a huge spectrum of non-psychoactive cannabinoids, and there's a huge spectrum of psychoactive cannabinoids. Each of these cannabinoids reacts to different receptors in the nervous system, the immune system, the integumentary system, all kinds of different systems in the body. These receptors all interact together and help the body maintain a better homeostasis. So that's the big thing that we're realizing with these receptors is it helps tell the body what to do better. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with chiropractic, right? Is we're trying to get the body to get the best messaging system from the organs, from its sensory. But so where we're finding that the CBD, especially in the nervous system specifically, there's what's called a CB1 receptor. And that CB1 receptor, there's more CB1 receptors in the brain than any other neurotransmitter in the body. So we got to make sure that if the neurotransmitters are being affected by the way that cannabis is used in the body, or the neurotransmitters are being affected by the way that the cannabinoid receptors in your body need to be affected, we need to start investigating that as chiropractors and as a medical field in general. Because if all of these really terrible psychotropic drugs that are anxiety, anti-seizure, a lot of psychoactive chemicals are trying to push more dopamine into the system, or more serotonin, and to flood the body with neurotransmitters falsely. If we can kind of produce a more natural response to help the brain regulate by just using something as simple as a plant-based cannabinoid, or potentially what they're finding too is that there's an endogenous system where your body produces its own cannabinoids. And a couple of those molecules that are most notable is one in breast milk, they call it 2-AG. 2-AG stands for 2-arachidonyl glycerol. That molecule is most analogous to CBD. So that molecule is found in colostrum in breast milk, and it's a really, really important molecule for babies to have immediately once they start breastfeeding. It helps with their modulated immune response. There's all kinds of other really interesting cell physiology that goes on once the cannabinoid receptors are affected. Another big human body cannabinoid that we're finding is what we used to think of as the runner's high endorphin, right? So that endorphin is called anandamide. That endorphin is released whenever you exercise. So it's constantly produced at an equilibrium level. But once you start exercising, now that cannabinoid starts spiking, that production of the cannabinoid starts spiking, and it's released into all of your body's receptors. So from where I stand, I would argue that what's the most common research nowadays is that exercise is basically good for everything, right? Positive meditation, positive vibes is good for everything. What they're finding is these states of arousals, these stimuluses that cause positive arousal in you to get this runner's high endorphin, this feel-good endorphins triggered, we're seeing that they act more like cannabinoids in the body than anything. So when we start releasing these neurotransmitters, these endorphins, they act like cannabis. So it's pretty amazing some of the things we're doing. Yeah. Again, it's all to regulate the body. All of these cannabinoid receptors are helping each cell, each specific organ and tissue regulate better and help, do whatever its function is supposed to be better. That's why we talk about a lot. I'm not going to sit here and say that same way we don't sit here and say that chiropractic cures anything, right? This CBD, this cannabis isn't curing anything. What it's doing is physiologically, on a cellular physiologic level, it's helping your cells heal and communicate better. So I'm not parading around saying that cannabis is the cure-all for everything, but it's absolutely an essential nutrient, and we're finding that it's essential the same way, more similarly to, like, let's just say vitamin D or vitamin C. Some of these vitamins, these essential nutrients that you need to create neurotransmitter in your body, to create hormones. We're finding that a lot of those come from hemp and from cannabis. So,
the majority of the time with CBD, you're ingesting it, right? You're not smoking it.
Right. There's lots of ways to ingest CBD. And as a doctor, I gotta say that smoking anything is probably not the best way, especially just because it's hot, it's heating up the tar. It can be detrimental to your health because of the smoke. But as far as ingesting it with the hemp oil supplement that we're doing, you just put it under your tongue, you eat it just like you would eat any other food supplement. We also do a salve lotion that you can just rub on topically. So there's a lot of different ways to ingest and to get cannabis into your system, but not necessarily in the same way that everybody thinks about, right? It's not necessarily you have to get high to get this effect. There's non-psychoactive constituents of this plant. They're going to be super effective. And you can think there's also something to be said for, and I teach this at the workshop too, but there's different states of cannabis. So when it's raw, and it's the raw nutrient that comes directly from the plant that's not heated at all, it has different cannabinoids. Once it's heated, it turns into a different cannabinoid. So, say, for example, when you juice cannabis leaves and you juice the bud, there's no psychoactive component to that because the THC never gets activated by the heat. So there's a different molecule that becomes produced once you heat it up. So there's all kinds of different cannabinoids. There's also cannabinoids where your body, once it's ingested, let's just say THC or CBD, it degrades the CBD and the THC into further cannabinoid constituents. So the body continues to use the cannabis. It continues to take the first molecule it used raw, potentially heated, and it continues to age it and continues to utilize those cannabinoids in it. So it's a continuous system. It's a collective, cumulative effect when you use a hemp supplement or when you ingest cannabis, when you use CBD. It has a cumulative effect in the body.
Yeah, and it's pretty amazing how it works with almost everything. Pain, seizures, another big one, anxiety, depression. I've heard countless people taking it strictly for that, and it's regulated their system in that way too.
Right. And like
what are some of the things you've been seeing in your office with all that?
So especially like you talked about with seizures, epilepsy, even some of the kids at our office with autism and some of more psychological disorders and developmental disorders, we've had really, really good effects as far as getting the brain to start doing things that it wasn't doing before. And again, I'm not saying that it's curing anything or that it's healing anything, but the truth
it's regulating,
when the cell physiology starts to get what it needs again, things start happening the way it was supposed to be happening, the way it was designed to happen again. So I have a slide that we talk about in the cannabis or in the CBD workshop, but we talk about the different types of neurotransmitter receptors for dopamine, serotonin, some of these molecules that are very indicated in Parkinson's disease, anxiety, depression disorders. The CBD molecule is able to help regulate the production and the utilization of those neurotransmitters. So when a CBD molecule attaches, sometimes it almost acts like a lock and key and it blocks the attachment of a neurotransmitter. So sometimes it can help regulate that way. But again, I've said it probably 1,000 times, but it's all about regulation. It's all about getting the body to do homeostasis, to come back to equilibrium. And sometimes when you have anxiety, there's a spike. There's either a spike or a really big decline in hormonal levels or in neurotransmitter levels. So that's typically where we can get that equilibrium to start matching again. Okay? And,
right. Yeah. And so since it is your body has the receptors and your body can regulate it, do you have patients who can take it like every day, like almost like a vitamin or?
Right. So we do. I recommend it to people. It all depends on what you got going on conditions-wise. And obviously a patient who just wants to be a little bit healthier, that doesn't really have a whole lot of symptoms or anything, somebody who isn't already a cannabis user, they'll see benefits from utilizing a hemp oil supplement. One thing that I mentioned about hemp oil is that there's always a certain amount of THC in the supplements to make sure that you get that, what we call the entourage effect. It's a synergistic effect of just the plant being the way that it was created to be on Earth and not removing certain molecules out of it.
Right, yeah.
Affected the whole plant. So we try to keep our supplement as pieced together as possible and not try to extract too much out of it. What happens is a lot of the dispensaries and the places that are selling cannabis or CBD supplements nowadays, they have to physically extract THC out of the supplement to keep it CBD dominant. Yeah. So that can kind of affect the potency sometimes, and it's never like a specific scientific potency. It's more of that synergistic potency that we're talking about, where some people don't always get the lasting effect.
It's like it's being processed a little bit, so it's
Right. So it's the same concept, and it's all being processed, but it's a matter of getting the most clean process, the most natural supplement with the most original molecules in it possible, right? So that's something that I recommend to patients as far as when they use our supplement, that we make sure that it's super low THC from the hemp plant. The other thing, is that there's different methods of adjusting it, like we talked about. So we have a salve, a lotion that if people have this kind of topical pain, low back pain, I personally use it for my low back pain. I'll have kind of like pinching from sitting all day or whatever I'm doing. I'll rub it on there, move around a little bit, and it feels great within a couple minutes, honestly. So it's amazing that there's this electrical component to CBD too, where it can start working almost immediately. I'm sure that you guys, the listeners out there, have seen some of the videos where some of the patients have seizures, like a kid's having a seizure, and they put the dropper of CBD right under their tongue immediately, or they take a inhaler of CBD immediately, and it stops the seizure instantly. Part of that we think is due to that electrical capability of it. And again, the CBD acts like a neurotransmitter more than anything. So it's always going down.
Yeah, that's unreal. Well, I will say one thing. I broke my elbow last year, and I was in California, so my cousin ran to the dispensary, got me some CBD, and I flew to Florida to get the surgery, and that worked 1,000 times better than after I had my surgery. Then I had the whatever painkiller it was. It might have been like Oxycontin or whatever it was. Dude, that stuff messes with your head. Like I was just not like.
It is so toxic. Those narcotic pain medications are so toxic, and we have an epidemic in America right now. And I know you're aware of it, but people are being prescribed pills for all kinds of crazy reasons. And a lot of it is that, frankly, medical doctors, they're not well educated on what we do as chiropractors, and part of that's our fault, because we don't do a great job of explaining to them as a profession what we do and how important it is that these people are having their nervous systems checked regularly, right? Same way that you would get your teeth checked out regularly, right? Yeah. And that's the problem, is that we're not getting, the health of people taken care of.
And what's crazy too? See all these commercials all day long, and it says, at the end of the commercial, it says, not to mention half the commercials, all the side effects you can have from the pharmaceuticals. But at the end of the commercials, check with your doctor to see if you're a candidate for this drug. It's like they're advertising their drug to the doctors like that's the doctor's job to tell you which drug you should be on. That doesn't make any sense to me.
And frankly, I'm pretty sure we're one of the only countries in the world where it's legal for pharmaceutical companies to advertise drugs on television the way that we do. I mean, I remember joking around with one of my friends from Europe, and the guy didn't know what Viagra was because it's not like mainstays like it is here in the States, right? You see a Viagra commercial every Sunday on football, right? Because guess who's watching football on Sunday, right? Old men.
Exactly.
But that's not funny to anybody that's in a different culture. I mean, that's not what we normally see on the TV. That's not what we see on the media in other places. So it's really interesting to see how the pharmaceutical industry really has a hold on marketing here in the States. There's a vaccine for freaking everything. I was joking. I did my concussion seminar last night, and I was joking that pretty soon they're going to have a vaccine for concussions. I've never heard of nothing like there's no medication for that right now. So the fact that they would tell me, hey, there's a vaccine for this, vaccine for that, there's pills for this, pills for that. We got to figure out as a community what we can do better and how we can get more natural healing mechanisms into our body, because the way that we're going is not good. And so many people are narcotics, and those people, like you talked about, They go from OxyContin, and now they're on the streets taking heroin because heroin's cheaper. And it's easier to find than getting OxyContin from a doctor, right? So
and so what we don't want either is the pharmaceutical companies getting a hold of the CBD, right?
Of course, and that's something that I talked about at the workshop too, is that they made CBD a Schedule 1 drug on the federal list, right? And the reason for that is not because it's bad for you. The reason for that is because they don't want to research it, because it might actually show that it's good for you, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we don't research that meth is good for you, right? We don't try to, like, prove that meth is good for you or that cocaine or crack or any of these, like, hard drugs are good for you. But cannabis is something that I feel like we don't want to know that cannabis can help us for the reason that, like, a lot of the pills that we take just because this symptom occurs, that symptom occurs. Well, you can get one supplement, one plant that, again, grows like a weed, easily ingested, it's easily consumable. I mean, literally, you can just pick it off the plant, grind it up, use it as medicine. That challenges the pharmaceutical industry. That challenges the paradigm of how we understand health. And we can move from this reactive system of healthcare that we live in, where if doctors wait until you're sick, the only time health insurance will pay for any of your stuff is if you're sick and dying, right? Or on that progression, right? We need to get people out of this understanding of sick care and into proactive health, right? Like
Absolutely.
That's got to be our goal. It's getting people
Absolutely.
This. It can be CBD. It can be things like turmeric, ginger, all of these natural food supplements that just grow in the ground that were created for us to be here. We can use these things as remedies, as nutrients that we need for life. Right. And, and that goes with all the things in America with diet, lack of exercise, lack of good diet, lack of, having that family atmosphere a lot of places anymore. So
it's sad, too, because I've even been a victim of this, but it's completely backwards on the way we get our health care. There is a place for the medication and everything, but a lot of people get pumped with all this medication for 5-10 years, and then they come to us, and then the system detoxes, they start getting better, and they said they wish they did this 10-20 years ago. And sometimes by the time they get to us, it's almost too late. With people with, like, Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, we have very high success rates with early onset Alzheimer's and everything because we catch it early enough, and people get their nervous system in check and corrected, and they start to get better.
And that's one
rather
thing that
than them going down the road 20 years, pump medication, and by that time, hopefully we can help, but it might be too late. So
that's one thing that we've talked about, man, is that all of the research right now in chiropractic, the research that a lot of our colleagues out here, Heidi Havoc is a great researcher out there in New Zealand. All of her research right now is done on brain and how the brain is communicating with the spinal cord to all of the organs. So if you just go on PubMed, a lot of her research talks about cortical drive. Cortical drive is your brain's nerve impulses to your limbs and to your organs. That's what we're talking about with chiropractic. This is cortical drive. It's brain power, brain energy, brain chemically powering your body, right? Electrically powering your body. That's where all the research is being done right now, that your brain is physically changing. Physiologically, I can change your brain with a cervical adjustment or with Blair technique adjustment or with a lumbar spine adjustment even.
Right.
All of these things are affecting your brain because the brain is intimately connected with the spine. It's amazing that this organ is constantly integrating all these things, right?
Truly is amazing.
Yeah, to your point though, it's all the research right now in chiropractic is how we're changing the brain. And it totally makes sense how if you change somebody's brain, you're going to affect Alzheimer's. You can affect things like CTE. And I know you did an episode about concussions the other day.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about that topic too right now just because, I had a concussion, but brain function is where we're at in chiropractic right now. And if I can get your brain to function after a concussion, if it's after a whiplash trauma, we gotta get your brain is
right.
We do have a
if you get the proper nerve flow to the affected area, anything can happen. It can change. But if it's cut off and it's like that for a while, it's tough to get somebody better. But you release all that pressure around the brainstem, and you see miracles happen.
Miracles, bro. And like you said, man, you're talking biblical like miracles sometimes. Like I see some crazy stuff with chiropractic thing that we're doing. And I'm gonna be honest, Kev, you and I are both real young in this profession. But just in our short time, I know you and I both seen some crazy, unexplainable miracles happen.
Absolutely,
It's such a beautiful process that we get to see every day in our offices. And this thing that I'm doing with CBD and that hopefully, we all start doing with CBD.
Yeah.
There are biblical-like miracles going on in this field, and it's just something that we got to get out to the world and tell people about it. We have to let people know the stories and some of these testimonials of patients that have had cancer, autoimmune conditions, Parkinson's, these detrimental, devastating neurological disorders and different types of disorders that take families, take really, really good people on earth. We got to make sure that we can start changing it for the better. And truthfully, on my watch, it perfectly makes sense to me why if you have a molecule that helps your cells keep from replicating all over the place and replicating too many cells at one time, you have a molecule that can keep healthy immune cells from attacking its own healthy tissue and autoimmune diseases and stuff. That molecule is CBD, dude. And if you can get that molecule into people more often, it's going to be great. It's going to be crazy.
That's great.
What things will happen.
So, Austin, where are you located, and what's the name of the practice you're working at, and where can people find you?
So I am in Newport Beach, California. Work at DeMoss Chiropractic with world-renowned Dr. Billy DeMoss.
Legend.
He and I, legend. Super legend. I've learned all of the fun speaking antics and tactics that I have from him, so hopefully I'm young, learning from an old Yoda. He has a little,
Absolutely.
I don't think he has as much hair, though. But I'm in Newport Beach. I'm in Newport Beach. I'm over
website
near John Wayne Airport. So, I'd love to have new patients. I'm trying to keep myself real busy over here with talks. And, one thing that I love that you're doing, Kev, is doing seminars like this, doing little podcasts, just getting information and
Definitely.
Stuff for people to view, see, hear, and just frankly to do their own research and get out there and
Absolutely. That's important. I'm glad you said that. Do your own research.
I always tell my patients, as a doctor, Kev, we're worthless. We're completely worthless if our patients don't use the tools, if they don't take accountability for their health care and go out, use the tools that we give them, whether it be about diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress relief, whatever it might be, all the things that we talk about in our offices every day. We got to make sure that these patients, we can give it and deliver it to them in a way that's loving, deliver it to them in a way that they'll receive it the best, and ultimately, for us, a way that it's affordable and that they're willing to pay for it. We put a value on what we're doing, and that people really have a good picture of, nobody goes into a dentist and asks for a discount. Nobody goes into a, you don't go into a cardiothoracic surgeon and ask him for a discount on your heart surgery, right? Chiropractic is like that, to know that we're not just this BS healthcare field that whacks and cracks and gets out. We are scientific.
Changing lives.
We're changing lives bone by bone, nervous system by nervous system, brother, Well,
Austin, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate the talk. I learned a lot today myself. Love to have you back on anytime.
I'd love to be a part of it, man. And I honestly, God bless you. Thanks for having me on. And I can't wait to see what we do here in the future with CBD, with chiropractic, and some of the crazy stuff that's going on in our field, brother. It's going to be awesome.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you soon, all right?
Definitely, man. Talk to you soon. Hopefully come out to Cal Jam. I'll see you at Cal Jam.
Absolutely,
Anyway, brother.
Yeah. So,
right,
so Austin,
okay?
This episode will come on probably Monday. So I'll hit you up. I'll send you an email, give you some episode art with a picture. You can share on all your social media platforms, and we'll get it rolling. All right?
Cool, dude. I'm excited, brother. It's fun. I'm excited.
All right, brother. Talk to you soon.
Dude, it's good to see you, man. I hope
you too.
Honestly, come out to Cali. I'm ever out that way.
Absolutely. I'd love to. All right, man.
Dude, take it
later.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. My private practice is located in New Jersey at Montclair Upper Cervical Chiropractic. If you have any additional questions about today's podcast, other episodes, or any questions about Blair Upper Cervical Chiropractic in general, feel free to visit my website at drkevinpecca.com or subscribe to my YouTube channel at Dr. Kevin Pecca. Hope you enjoyed the show. Cheers.